approach that we've seen in the United States throughout the pandemic and in all regards, and really has cost lives. And we've seen a fragmented approach with respect to the vaccine rollout. Some of that's unavoidable. That's how public health works in the United States. We lean on our states and municipalities to do a lot of that frontline work. But we needed more federal coordination, more federal guidance, more federal leadership. We're starting to see that. I think we're starting to see less of a 50-state solution to the vaccine rollout and something that is more guided. That takes time. It's hard. We're now doing it in mid-course. It would have been much easier to do this back in the fall. But I think we'll start to see that balance between federal guidance and state leadership that's supported, that will help us get through this what's been a rocky rollout so far. There's no doubt about it.
Markets right now are pricing in a recovery at the back half of 2021. Given the vaccination schedule where it is and the pace of the ramp up that you're talking about, are we actually going to see that recovery?
You know, that's a good question. I mean, I think we'll see and end up seeing a lot more vaccine doses. I mean, a massive increase. We're already at 1 million to 1.5 million doses a day here in the United States, above that million dose target that the Biden administration has set. I think we can really scale up even faster come March and April with both the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and then those other vaccines that are moving through testing here in the United States, AstraZeneca and Novavax. I think by summer, we're going to see massive vaccination programs and the ability to hit all of our high-risk populations, our high-need populations, so that come summer and come into the fall, I think we're going to really be in a much different place, thankfully, in terms of what the pandemic looks like, and then the consequences for the economy, the consequences for our daily life.
Well, let's talk about the consequences for the global economy. Professor, how concerned are you about so-called vaccine nationalism?
I'm very concerned about it. I mean, we've already seen when we look at research that's shown where countries have bought up commitments from the vaccine manufacturers here. It's disproportionately high-income countries. We know that there's a vast global need. We've got this global coordination through the WHO, through Gavi, this COVAX facility that's intending to bring vaccines to the low and middle income countries, but it's not nearly enough when we look at the billions of doses that will be needed for low and middle income countries. And the prospect that the vast majority of less wealthy countries may have to wait well into 2022, according to some estimates, to get vaccines really is ominous. So we need to recenter, to refocus those global efforts. Again, the US has signaled they're back in the World Health Organization. They're going to join this global vaccination effort. But the idea that it's every country for itself is already starting to loom on the horizon. And there needs to be a more global cosmopolitan approach if we're going to fight this global pandemic with global variants that present threats to all of us.
Jason, I'd like you to build on that because I was struck by data that showed that J&J and Novavax's vaccines are much less effective than the South African strain. The idea that we could get everybody vaccinated with these vaccines and then find that the pandemic is still spreading because it has mutated into a new form that is resistant. How close are we to that kind of reality?
The vaccine is absolutely, it's chasing a moving target with respect to the viral variants. That makes it all the more important to vaccinate as aggressively and quickly as we can right now to tamp down viral replication, viral circulation, do all of those other measures that can help reduce the spread of the virus. Thankfully, platforms now, particularly the mRNA vaccine platforms that we're understanding be modified, can respond to variants. But it's going to be a moving target for sure. The fact that J&J didn't seem quite as responsive to that South African variant is a cause for concern, but it only underscores the urgency of both monitoring the variants and keeping that vaccination program at full throttle while we know the vaccines are still really effective against the circulating viruses that we're seeing at this moment.
Professor, terrific to catch up. Come back soon. Jason Schwartz there of the Yale School of Medicine. And Tom, just a word if you can on vaccine nationalism. I think is a real worry in the medical community at the moment. The WHO just about starting to put pressure on developed nations who have got so far along in the vaccination process to stop once they've already vaccinated the most at risk in society, to allow developing countries to catch up. Because let's be clear here. There is a risk, and the professor's speaking to it, that you can vaccinate the bulk of your society, pull back restrictions, but if the developing world hasn't done the same thing, Tom, the variants start to build again, and it's a threat to the already vaccinated population because maybe those vaccines don't work.
3 months ago, John, I looked at the vectors of California, New York, Florida, blah, blah, blah. The first thing I look at about every 4 days when I look at the virus math is the dispersion in Africa of deaths. Their numbers aren't very good. There's some real questions, but it's a difficult picture. Kristalina Georgieva was heated about this in my conversation with her a couple days ago.
Begs the question, Lisa, how quickly we can open the domestic economy economy is a different question to how quickly we can reopen the global economy.
And it's not just emerging markets, right? It's also Europe. How quickly can we reopen some of these corridors, the transatlantic corridor, if you have Europe lagging behind the U.S. so much in the vaccination schedule?
You saw that headline from Poland. Won't vaccinate the elderly with the AstraZeneca shot. This follows the doubts in Germany over the same vaccine. That spat in Europe over AstraZeneca. Not going away anytime soon. Coming up, Torsten Slock, formerly of Deutsche Bank, now of Apollo Management, the chief economist, on this economy, as we count you down to an important payrolls Friday, just around the corner. For our audience worldwide, live from New York City, heard on Bloomberg Radio, seen on Bloomberg TV, alongside Tom Keene and Lisa Abramowitz, I'm Jonathan Ferro. This is Bloomberg.
For just $67, you can make as many videos as you want, and you never need to pick up a camera or use any fancy
一个就是我们看中它的那个品牌吧，它品牌就是说东西比较干净嘛，然后比较方便的话，味道也还可以的话，我觉得我会考虑吧。外卖的话呢，也是一种方式，就是品种会多一点嘛，各有它的特点吧。
这个车的话，目前我们是通过这个手机 APP 上，就手机扫码，然后微信和这个支付宝扫我们这个车上的这个二维码，大家就可以进入到一个小程序的这个界面，然后呢就可以选购自己喜欢的商品，然后付款之后呢，这个柜门会自动打开。
支付成功，请拉开右侧车门取货并关紧柜门。
然后我们会取餐，然后完了之后呢，就把餐这个柜门关上，然后整个购买的这个流程就会结束。
柜门已打开，请取出货物并关好柜门。
One book a week, but not many people have time for that. I understand. So I created a company with my
generation's biggest problem.
Climate change is happening.
And the world's most innovative solutions.
Transport, industry, buildings, electricity, all of those things.
Everything you need to know about our changing environment, the politics of global warming.
We can and we will deal with climate change.
In the fight against climate change, Bloomberg Green has you covered.
This is the 1980s all over again.